Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. We're here live with Co-working Live with Red Worldwide, and I am Dr. Patience Jackson Rose, and I'm so excited to be here on another Focus Friday. Some of you guys remember that we just started Focus Fridays, and each time we have a specific series that'll last probably about 6 weeks, and we'll focus on a specific area with regards to our personal and professional development. So a lot of what we do in co-working focuses more on the business itself, or maybe even we focus on, what we need to do to remain, in a state of, just being able to do good business, doing business better, doing business well. We do all of those things, but we want to really focus in on us and our professional development, our emotional development, our personal development, so that we can be the best that we can be. And so this 6 weeks, we are focusing in on leadership. And so with that said, I have prepared a couple of, assets today. And so we want to just kind of, Adam, I think they'll be fun for us to, see things from a different perspective. So let's see what our little cartoon people say about leadership. All right, Javon, roll our first, the first video. Thank you.
What makes a leader effective? It's about understanding your leadership style and practicing self-leadership. According to a study by Harvard Business Review, self-awareness is a key trait of successful leaders. Developing and communicating a vision is also crucial. Steve Jobs is a great example of a visionary leader who transformed Apple into a tech giant. He had a clear vision and communicated it effectively. Influencing and motivating others is another key aspect of leadership. For instance, Martin Luther King Jr. inspired millions of people to fight for civil rights through his powerful speeches. Leading through change can be challenging, but it's essential to stay competitive. Amazon's Jeff Bezos has been successful in leading the company through numerous changes, including expanding into new markets and launching new products. Finally, building a strong company culture is critical. Google is known for its unique culture that fosters creativity and innovation. So, effective leadership involves understanding your style, practicing self-leadership, developing a vision, motivating others, leading through change, and building a strong company culture. It's a journey, but it's worth it.
So we're going to really just kind of digest all of those things that our little wonderful Jenny, who shared with us a few minutes ago, talked about, because, all of those areas are what makes us effective as leaders. And we want to really, do a little bit more of a deeper dive to just see, how that really applies to us. So next slide, please. Okay, so one of the things we want to do when we are going to approach this today is we're going to look at some leadership styles, but we're also going to look at practical strategies for using those styles, and how can we self-develop? What is it that we can do to really take ourselves to our next level of leadership? And then how do we inspire and motivate others to follow? Because that's a big deal. If you are a leader and nobody's following, there's a problem. And so generally, we need to understand our leadership role and how it works so that we can inspire change, inspire and motivate others to be good followers and ultimately become good leaders as well. Next slide, please. All right. So, what is leadership? Well, last week we kind of talked about it a little bit, and we really broke down some concepts of what leadership is. But I want to really just approach it from this direction. We approached it a little bit differently last week, but I want to talk about the IVR of leadership: influence, vision, and responsibility. When we are able to see it from this perspective, it does really help us to situate our thoughts a little differently on how do we push our push forth our style of leadership in a way that is effective with the people that we are leading. So leadership is really about influencing others to achieve a common goal, and it's not just about the authority and power that comes along with leadership, but it's about the inspiring and motivating people to really work together. You are more of a facilitator when you're a leader than you are a dictator. And I really would love to see people, take on that perspective that when you're thinking about, I am facilitating change, I am facilitating this group to get from this level to this level. When you're thinking about it that way, then you can approach the situation in more of we're going to corral this group of people together, and we're going to, effectively motivate and inspire them to do whatever it is that we need to get done. And those particular skill sets are highly valued in leadership. And then the other thing, when you have that, the V of the IVR is vision. Effective leaders have a clear vision. And sometimes your vision is within a vision, if I can say it that way, because you may not be the ultimate leader. You may have delegated authority. And so delegated authority is when you have been given a charge to do something specific, and you are consciously moving in that direction to assist the group in getting that thing done. And when you have that as your case, and as in most of what I do, I am a leader of a group that is within a group, or I am a visionary leader in a group that is within a group, which means that I buy into the vision of the ultimate vision. Like in our situation, we are associate pastors at a church, my husband and I. And so there is a vision already there. And I can't come in thinking, okay, I've got a vision. Okay. No, my vision is within the vision. Okay. In other words, I want to make sure that that vision gets done at the, highest level of excellence, and that we are able to complete the tasks with, um, with the level of, care that I would give to something that I was doing myself. Okay. So if I were doing it myself, I would have it done XYZ. It would be like to the nth degree. And so I have to make sure that if I am having a role where I am a visionary leader within the vision of someone else, then I am going to have a clear cut path to making sure that that vision gets complete. And I am able to articulate that in such a way that the people who I am inspiring and motivating to follow, they are able to, come together with me and get done what needs to be done, instead of trying to encourage me or themselves to go in a different direction, and, based on their disdain or disagreement with what it is that the vision, is entailing. So you got to make sure that you're not in any kind of disagreement with whatever the ultimate vision is when you have a vision within a vision. But if it's your vision and you are the ultimate leader, you have to also be aware that there are other people that are going to be in that position that will craft a vision to help you get your vision done. And so you've got to lead them in such a way that you make them want to do that. That has to be a part of, a global goal, okay, within that organization. Okay, and then responsibility. Leaders take responsibility, for their actions and for the actions of their team. I have to say that, and I'm going to stand by it every time. There are a lot of people who feel like, well, I'm only responsible for me, and even though I'm the leader, if they do something different, I'm not responsible for what they did. I can't be held responsible because I did what I was supposed to do. And it really doesn't go that way. You try being the ultimate leader of an organization, and having people have that attitude, can really cause a tremendous rift or schism in the team, because the team feels like, well, it doesn't really matter what I do because the leader of this team is only going to be responsible for what they did, and they're only buying into what they're doing, and they're not necessarily supporting what it is that we need to do or what we need to learn to do. So being accountable for the success or failure of the endeavor is really important. I remember when I was in a position where I was a principal of a school, and at the time I had a program called TASK, Teachers Accountable for Student Knowledge. And I mean to tell you, when I released the information for the teachers to understand that I personally was always going to be responsible for everything that happened in my classroom. If my children and that were in the classroom didn't learn it, it's because I did not teach it to them in a way that caused them to learn. I believe that wholeheartedly, that teachers are accountable completely, 100%, for whatever it is that goes on in the class. And if the students didn't get it, is that you didn't teach it. And I don't mean you didn't present it, or you didn't, provide the information, or you didn't give them books and paper tasks and things of that nature. I'm saying that teaching goes beyond that. It goes into the framework of making sure that you have the heart and mind of every child in your focus when you are preparing these activities for them to do. You want to make sure that whatever it is that you're giving them is going to produce an effect, is going to produce results, because results are irrefutable. You can argue with me, but you're not going to be able to argue with my results. And if my students were able to produce the result, then that means that they got it. Okay, they got it. So, I took to looking at tests as not a way of testing what the students knew, as much as it was testing what it is that I was able to cause them to know. And that is really important, because it changes your ability to make sure that you are providing materials and teaching, giving activities, putting group people in the right types of groups so that they are successful at gaining the knowledge. Now, I took that with me from the level of teaching and training that I did when I was in, teaching preschool. Then I taught, middle school, and I taught high school. And, I worked with kids who were special needs, and I worked with kids who were gifted. I worked with all different types of students. And then I taught college. And even when I taught college, I had that same framework. If they are not getting it, I need to look back at me first before I look at them, and I have to say that, I had to take responsibility for every aspect of what happens in the classroom, every aspect of what happens, in outside of the classroom with the materials that I gave, because this is how we get good feedback, so that we can make sure that we are adding value to what it is that we are doing normally, and to make sure that they get it next time if they didn't get it this time. All right, next slide, please. So what makes leaders effective? All right. What is it that we can really say makes a leader effective? Well, I really want you to think about a few things. And these 4 things here, are what I would say makes a leader, effective. And the first thing is communication. We talked about what, communicates leadership in our last episode, but when we were talking about the concept of being a good leader. But I really want you to understand that effective leaders clearly and concisely communicate. They ensure that every person who is listening or reading, because sometimes you're leading and the people are not physically present. They might be, over the internet, or they might be getting access to you via email or Slack or some other tool. And so you have to make sure that however you're communicating, you are communicating clearly and concisely, and you're ensuring that everyone understands the vision and expectations of them, what it is that you expect them to do. And so I have to really go back to this again. The leadership in and of itself, okay, is born out of you taking responsibility for your role. When I'm communicating with someone, it is not their responsibility for them to just get it. It's my responsibility for me to make sure that it was communicated effectively so they can get it, and I remember, a lot of times hearing these statements made in class where the teachers would say things like, I got mine, you better get yours, well, what you get out of this class is your responsibility, and all of these things. And, and I get where they were coming from, but at the end of the day, I didn't agree, because my level of responsibility and accountability for teaching, and I don't know why we're just over here in the teaching realm, but since we are, I'm going to just put it out there. It goes back to, did I, seek to know all of the learners in the seats? Did I make sure that I understand any limitations of the learners in the seats, and did I really take into account, their learning styles and things of that nature, but also my teaching style, so that I can know, how do I connect? And so that takes us to number 2, empathy. Leaders understand the perspectives and feelings of their teams. You got to be able to lead with empathy. If you're not leading with empathy, then you're going to end up with a situation where somebody's going to get left out. And so you want to make sure that you are, understanding the feelings, the motivations of your team. And you want to create a supportive environment where everyone feels valued. A few weeks ago, was blessed to be able to do an interview in the metaverse. And we talked about, the ADHD conspiracy, a book that I wrote, last year. But we also talked more in depth about people who learn differently. And there are a lot of people who do business differently because they learn differently, they experience life differently. And so you have to have the ability to understand, and I do mean have that empathetic approach where you understand the perspectives that people are operating in, their experiences, their feelings, but also if they have areas of difference, you got to be able to embrace those and bring something to the table that actually will, again, connect with them so that you get the best use out of them on the team, because everyone is on the team to add value. And if someone doesn't feel valued, they won't add anything. They will sit and allow others to do, and they will, have a feeling of, well, I can't participate because I'm not the same as everyone else. And it's our differences that actually makes us a very good team, not our likenesses. And so having empathy helps you to understand the differences, or maybe just be aware of, maybe you don't understand their difference, but you can at least be aware of it so that you are not in a situation where you are leaving someone out, or for that matter, not taking advantage of an opportunity that could be there with people who are very different than what you might be. Okay, then integrity. You got to act with honesty and ethical conduct. We kind of talked about ethics, earlier in the week. And I just want to bring it up again that, when you have honesty and ethics in your framework, you build trust and credibility. People, want to be a part of what you are a part of, because they can trust that what you're telling them is true. What you're doing is coming from a true place. And they can, the authenticity and the ability for them to genuinely understand what you're about is there, and so you want to operate with integrity. It really does change a lot of what is supposed to happen with you in business when you're able to show up every day as your authentic self and give everything you have and everything you are to your endeavors. And then you want to remain adaptable. We talked about the flexibility part, and we talked about resilience in a previous episode. And so I want to bring it out again today because it is a part of everything that I believe, that when you are flexible and adaptable and willing to adjust, your approach, and maybe, iterate on top of what you've already done, have a level of innovation that's a part of the framework of your company. It does bring, a higher level of, interaction with your team. It allows for people to, tremendously give into what it is that you have created. And it makes that thing, really pop, when you're, everyone's coming around and they're like, okay, we are a part of a company that is constantly, making changes and iterating based on what's happening in the markets and in the industry. And, people want to be around people that have fresh perspectives. I'm just telling you, a lot of the reasons why in my earlier years, I stayed with Apple when everybody ditched them is because they had a fresh perspective. And constantly they were, looking at what works, what doesn't work. Okay, fine. We can't do this. We're going to have to ditch that and let's add this. And they weren't afraid to do it. And so I am saying to you that as a business owner and as a leader, you want to be able to have in your business the ability for you to adapt to change, to take advantage of things that are going on and use it as maybe even a method of, creating something that's, more effective than other people might have in their companies. Next slide, please. Okay, so how do we understand our leadership style? Well, you gotta, take a look at, the fact that there are several different ones, but today we're going to really talk about these three: the authoritative leadership style, the democratic leadership style, and the laissez-faire. Okay, so let's kind of look at this. So people who have authoritative leadership styles, they have clear direction. They operate, with clear direction. They are established in this authoritative manner because they have really good decision-making power. You don't have to concern yourself with whether or not they can make a decision. And a lot of times they can make a decision, in a lot less time than other people because they've developed a system for how they review information and what it takes for them to make a decision. And if they can't make the decision right now, they clearly communicate it, that this is not something I can do on the fly. I'm going to need about a week. Okay. And because they know themselves and they know what they need to know about themselves, they can tell you it's going to take a week, or it may take me 2 weeks based on what I already have on my plate, but I will get back to you. And then, they have a strong focus on results. And I know that those of you who are working with me on things and are listening to this, you probably are looking at this saying, oh yeah, she's an authoritative leader, because I do have a strong focus on results. I am a result-oriented person. I have a whole program that is based on it. If somebody goes to my Instagram right now, my Instagram handle is results are irrefutable. So, and I've written several books, that focus in on us getting the right kind of result. And so I'm very much, able to share, because of who I am and how I operate, that is my leadership style, but I do tend to have a level of collaborative decision making that I do allow into my organizations that I cover. And my reason for doing that is because I believe in democratic processes, and to a degree I depend on having people on the team that I'm able to collaborate with, because I know that we're better together, that having just one perspective is not ever going to be, the best focus, with regards to, what it is that we're trying to do. And so, we want to have team involvement and shared responsibility when we have a team. Sometimes I'm working with a really, really small team. So it's a little different, because of the small team that we have, and how we, are able to move about. But for the most part, when we're looking at this, and looking at our styles, you want to take a look at yourself. And I can tell you this, you probably should ask someone else that is around you, pose to them the concept of authoritative and democratic, and ask them, which one do you think I am, and see what they tell you. And then, of course, there's the laissez-faire, the people that have the hands-off approach. They have, they want people to have an individual autonomy and with minimal supervision. And there are, people that have that particular type of leadership style. They give you a task and they don't micromanage, and which I'm not the micromanager either. But, I'm not completely hands off, so I know that, there's growth that it's been happening over time with me as a leader. And I'm watching others who I am following who are leaders in the same way. And a lot of them, have a combination of these styles, just like I talked about how I have some level of democratic leadership as a part of my leadership style. I, do have just a tad of the laissez-faire when it comes to certain things. I'm going to be the person that gives you something to do, and I'm not going to come back and watch you every single hour to see if it's done. However, although I might leave you with the minimal supervision for doing the task, I am the person that's going to check in. Just saying, okay? Just to see how everything is going. All right, next slide, please. Okay, so how do we practice self-leadership? Well, self-leadership is a huge concept, because if you can ever get this right, and hear what I'm saying, if you can ever get this right, you will be able to have the self-governance necessary to, operate at very high levels of leadership. Okay. So self-awareness, understanding your strengths, weaknesses, values, and motivation. This is a very high level skill set. There are a lot of people who think that they're self-aware, but really they have maybe 50% of this. They might understand their strengths and their weaknesses, but they really don't always understand. And they may understand even their values, but they may not understand completely their motivations. And having the ability to understand what motivates you to do something or to be a certain way is important. And so I will tell you that there are some things that you can do, again, to test out and see if you are a person that, hey, you might have your strengths and weaknesses down pat, and your values, but you may not understand why you're doing certain things a certain way. There are some people who have motivations that go back to their childhood, or motivations that go into their, even their adult years, early adult years, in their team building within their families. A lot of those things, create reasons. They create motivations for people. And so we want to be looking at this approach when we're thinking about practicing self-leadership. We want to be thinking about, okay, I need to spend a little bit more time with myself, and I need to ask questions of people who are around me so that I can just test out my motivations. I want to make sure that I'm thinking about things in the proper way, and I'm approaching things in a way that really does make sense. Goal settings. How do you set goals? Some people set very, very clear, achievable goals for themselves and the team, and they meet the goals. Okay. And some people, they set high, lofty goals and they get halfway. Okay. And then there are other people who, they are, tentative goal setters, where they might set a goal that is very much beneath the bar because they know they can make that they can meet that goal. Whatever your style is for goal setting, I will tell you that you want to challenge yourself and look at what is the most effective type of goal setting that you can do to become the type of leader that you want to become. And so if you're the person that wants to be the leader whose team is always meeting their goals, then you got to make sure that you're looking at how are you setting the goals, and if the goals are achievable, and if they were clear, then you can, make sure that you might end in making some phases to the goals if it's something where consistently people are not able to meet them, and if it's a situation where they're always able to meet them, then set the bar a little higher, because it's nothing wrong with giving people a challenge. All right, what about time management? We talked a lot about time management in the past, and we just want to make sure that we bring this out again. Self-leadership, it does include you prioritizing your task and managing your time effectively, and remaining organized, because the thing is this: if somebody has to take over and follow your lead in something, you want to make sure that it is easy enough for them to step in your role and continue, so that nothing is left undone, and that the team and the task is able to be completed. And then you want to be a person who's a continuous learner. People talk about me being a lifelong learner because I'm always in school, and I'm always, working on this credential or that credential or some, type of, new thing, okay, that I need to have to make sure that I'm able to offer more to the community that I serve. But I am telling you that staying curious and seeking out new knowledge has been something that has always added value to my life and to the life of those that I serve, to my family's lives. And so I am saying to you that you want to be, looking at, can I add this as something new to my personality? If you're a person that's not the continuous learner, the person who's not necessarily looking to, add anything new, can you look at maybe adding something new every 6 months, or, looking at, the possibility of maybe every year doing something to upgrade your personal and professional acumen. I mean, it's something that you want to do to be able to stay adaptable, stay resilient, constantly be able to add value to the people who you are living with, and the people who you're learning with, and the people who you serve. Next slide, please. So when we are going to be able to, look at ourselves and understand how do we develop, and how do we improve or ameliorate ourselves, and improve upon the best version that we've attained so far, we've got to be able to get involved in developing and communicating our vision. And so I want you to really think about, the vision, and understand how it appears to you, may not be the most clear way to communicate it. And so you got to spend the time necessary to define your vision, so that you can clearly articulate the goals and objectives for the future. And you want to make sure that you're able to do that for the team as well as yourself. Sometimes, I've embarked upon things and my goals weren't as clear to myself. I thought that this is what I wanted, or that's what I wanted, but then I came to find out that it's not quite what it was that I, put forth in my emails and marketing materials, the branding and all of that. So I had to go back to the drawing board and look at, okay, what is the vision? Is it clear to me what it is that I wanting to do, or trying to bring forth? And how do I articulate that so that others can pick that up, because they're not in my head? And so the way that I see it might be, very clear to me, but it may not be clear to them, And then how do you communicate that to others? How do you share your vision with the team, and in a way that is inspiring and motivating to them? How do you get them to buy in? You got to be able to gain the buy-in. Okay, that is a win for you, but you have to work for that win. That's not something that you should just expect. Just because you present something on some paper. Okay, you need to be able to encourage people, to embrace what it is that you're wanting them to do by making it engaging. Show them where they fit. Show them what it is that they add to what we're doing and why you need them to participate. Otherwise, you can do it yourself, right? That's the way some people will see it. And so you have to be able to help them understand why you need them, so that they can support your vision. I never forget when we were talking about going live with co-working, and it was going to change how I interacted with my team. Most of the time, my team is on the line watching co-working just like everyone else. They're not doing anything during the co-working time. And that was really hard for them at first, because I had them asking questions like, well, what do you need me to do? Or, I don't feel like I'm doing very much, And so I'll tell you that it's important for you to communicate your why. A lot of the times when you communicate your why, then your team will understand, okay, I'm doing this part, or I'm not doing very much right now, and this is why. Okay, because when they have this is why, then it helps them to do that part for that period of time and not be in a place of where they are disgruntled or trying to come up with an idea of why they think, it is the way that it is. So, understanding and having the team, get the fact that they're learning this information so that they can communicate it, to our clients. They can support what it is that I'm doing when I'm working with the client. They can, iterate on top of it and help us to innovate to another level with the information. And when they get that, then they become more valuable to me as a team. And it's not a situation where it seems like we are not working together, in the right fashion. All right, next slide, please. So when we start talking about influencing and motivating others, we have to understand that the first thing that we have to have is a relationship. You cannot influence anybody that you don't have a relationship with. You've got to be able to establish strong relationships with your team members, and based on trust and respect. Those are two basic needs in a team. Trust and respect are everything, because if I don't respect you, then I disrespect you. And that is very, very important for you to understand. There's not like this in between stage of, well, I don't respect you, but I don't disrespect you. I'm just in the middle. Yeah, there are some things that you can be in the middle about. But if I am not respecting you or not regarding you, then I am disregarding you and disrespecting you for something else. There's no in between on that. So in building relationships, you have got to have the trust and the respect, operating appropriately. And then you got to be able to empower others, delegating tasks and providing opportunities for other people. That is a really important thing. And you want to make sure that if someone's already working on something and you come to the team, as the leader, when they're already in, a mode of working and doing something effectively, then it's going to be your responsibility to let them know, hey, I'm just now coming to the team. Could you show me how you've been doing this? Let them know that you value what they've been doing so far. You value the work that they've put in and the expertise that they have and the knowledge of the project that they have. Because when you show up and somebody's already been working on something and you disregard or disrespect what they have been doing, well, I know you guys were doing that before, but we're going to change everything. Here it is. Even if you have to change everything, give them an opportunity to share what's been going on so that they will understand that you respect their work, and that you understand that, hey, I know this doesn't necessarily feel good that we're having to change things, but I believe that you're going to have just as much, impact on this new thing that we're doing that you had on what you were working on the whole time that you've been working with the previous leader. Okay. Very important. Okay. And influencing and motivating others. If you show up to the team and you're new to the game, you don't walk in the fourth quarter acting as if you were there all 3 quarters. You need to be able to, come in and let people, at least bring you up to speed. Okay, that's going to be very important. It helps people to, gain trust in you when you demonstrate, the ability to listen and hear them share, what it is that they've been doing so far. And then recognize their achievements, celebrate success. I mean, acknowledge their contributions to the team. It is so important for you to be able to tell people you're doing a good job, and I appreciate it. I appreciate everything that you've done so far. I see how you're working with your team members, and it really inspires me to see you do it the way you do it. You've got to be genuine about it, but you got to find something that you are looking at, constantly, with your team so that they will understand that you do value who they are and what they bring. And then again, the communication, guys, you got to have clear communication consistently. Okay, because when you are giving regular feedback and updates, it really does help people to continue to want to do what it is that they're doing. Okay, next slide, please. So when we're leading through change, there is a lot to be said about the how, okay? Because, sometimes there are large changes that happen in companies. And, as you see here with my wonderful little AI generated display that I have here, of this maze. I mean, it's like mazes within a maze, okay? And that's how some people feel when change is happening. It's like, I mean, gosh, I'm in this maze and I'm trying to find my way out. And then on top of that, the maze is inside of a maze. So you got to make sure that you understand that there are people that are not, they don't embrace change well. And you have to demonstrate and model in front of them as the leader, okay, what embracing change looks like. See, you got to recognize that change is inevitable. It's going to always happen at some point, even though you might have long stints where things might stay the same. But at some point, there is going to be a change. And when there is a change, you have to first demonstrate how you embrace it. And then you got to give people a model for what it is that it looks like in their ecosystem. They may be the supervisors, or they may be, the end users of whatever it is that you are leading, or for that matter, they may be even the clients. Clients have to learn how to embrace change. There are times when I never forget, I have a client who told me, she says, man, every time I look up, you got some new technology and this is too much for me. I mean, I'm barely able to use my cell phone. I felt so bad because she was right, because we were trying to search for the best possible scenario, and I was making everybody the group that had to do the test. Not good. Not everybody needs to participate in the alpha stage or even the beta stage of your software launch, okay? You need to make sure that you are not making your clients the test group for everything that you're going to change. Yes, when it's time for you to introduce the new thing, you want to make sure that everybody gets an opportunity, because then there's that part where people are like, well, you know what? I didn't get the new launch. Why didn't I get it? Everybody else seems to have it and I got left behind. So you want to have this balance, because it is a delicate dance. You want to have a balance on how do you embrace change and how do you communicate change, because communicating effectively is important. Keeping the team informed about the changes, providing clear explanations and addressing any concerns in the team. And then when you're having to, actually put forth the change in the marketplace, and you're pushing it out to your new clients or even to clients who maybe are regular users or whatever it is that you have to make sure that you communicate things effectively to them, because some people will leave a company. They will leave your your product, your process, your service, whatever it is. They will leave because of the fact that they don't feel like you communicated effectively changes that were coming in the future or even have come now. Okay, I am saying to you that you got to make sure that when you're embracing change yourself, that you give yourself the opportunity to have some feelings about things. You see what's going on in your team, and then you take that feedback that you have and create a path for, pushing it out to your clients and customers. You make sure that you use what you learned, about this new thing that you're getting ready to launch and introduce, so that you can introduce it in a way that makes sense. Use a test group, and try to use all different types of people that will, opt in to participate so you can get more feedback. Take your time. Do not try to introduce a change overnight if you're not prepared for the fallout or to be able to assist people with using this new thing overnight. Okay. And then when you do have successes, yes, celebrate your successes, because it's important to acknowledge and celebrate the progress that's been made and all of the people that helped you get there. That's really important. People need to know that you value their work and you value their ability to, give you back the feedback you needed so that you can make this successful. Okay. Next slide, please. So how do we build a strong company culture? Well, we got to have some shared values, teamwork, and recognition. And so let's kind of look at how those things fit, to in a company culture. The first thing we got to look at is that there needed to be clear values to begin with. You have to have some core values to start. And those core values are what is out there to guide the behavior and the decision making within the organization. So whatever it is that you believe in, whatever it is that you stick to, whatever it is that you are saying about your company, it needs to be something that is shared amongst the team. You should not have one set of values that you operate by and another set of values that you've made clear to the team. No, it needs to be the same, okay? Because when you have two different sets of values, it can create a tremendous issue. And then you need to have some teamwork, okay? Promote collaboration and communication and mutual support among the team members. Do team building activities and things that help people to work together well. The first thing that happened for me when I went to go get my MBA is that we had a whole first set of classes that were designed to give us the ability to work together as a cohort in getting our MBA, because this was a program that was a cohort-based program. That meant that we helped each other get to the goal, and we needed to learn how to work together to do that. Some of us were used to working by ourselves, and we weren't used to having to do anything with anyone else. This was a huge, endeavor, for many of us. But the teamwork aspect of building company culture is probably one of the most important things that you will ever experience. Because if you can develop out a strong culture that is, embracing the changes and making sure that you are, looking at each person as individuals, but also seeing what they contribute to the team and celebrating them for doing so, it really does help to build that mutual support you're looking for. And then recognizing people, you got to make sure that you're recognizing people. So rewarding them for their contributions and achievements, formally, not just the informal stuff of saying, hey, you did a good job, but I mean really formally recognizing them. Next slide, please. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry, not next slide, but next video, please. And so what we're going to do right now is we've got about a 1-minute video that we're going to play because I want you to just do this knowledge check with us and make sure that you got the gist of what we've been talking about. So if you can roll that video, Javon, we would really be appreciative.
Now that we have learned a little about leadership, let's do a quick knowledge check to see what we know.
Sure, let's do it.
Okay, first question. What are the qualities that make a leader effective?
I think a good leader needs to be honest, confident, and have good communication skills.
Great answer. According to Forbes, effective leaders also need to be adaptable, resilient, and have a clear vision.
Interesting. What's the next question?
Next question. How can a leader influence and motivate others?
I think a leader can motivate others by setting clear goals, providing feedback, and recognizing their achievements.
Excellent answer. According to a study by Harvard Business Review, effective leaders also need to be empathetic, listen actively, and provide opportunities for growth.
I see. What's the last question?
Final question. How can a leader effectively lead through change?
I think a leader needs to communicate clearly, involve their team in the change process, and be adaptable.
You're right. According to a survey by McKinsey, effective leaders also need to be resilient, have a growth mindset, and be willing to take risks.
That was a great quiz. I learned a lot about effective leadership.
Me too. It's always good to brush up on our leadership skills.
For today, but I just want you to remember the most important part of this is that you have to practice self-leadership first. You got to be self-aware. You got to make sure that you're goal setting and that you have the time management in the right order, okay? And then that you're, a continuous learner, because if you can do that, then all of the other things we talked about today they're all possible. Not only possible, but you'll thrive while doing them. Well, this has been Dr. Patience Jackson Rose with Co-working Live with Red Worldwide, and we'll see you again next time.